building, the guy that has social media on fire.
What's up?
I'm talking about the one and only Killer Mike is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
What up? Yeah. We got to really find some updated music for me. I'm in a whole successful rap group called Run the Jewels now. We do pretty good. We got to get some Run the Jewels music to doing it back.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So, man, first of all, I'm reading this article in the AJC today.
Yes.
About the Atlanta strip club culture and
If
how
you're
big it
filming
is
me,
during
get
the
me from
Super Bowl. And you got some comments in there really about how the strip clubs in Atlanta have made Atlanta, especially for the music business,
Absolutely.
what it is.
They're one of the most vital parts of them and that and the cafeteria table. That's where music is broken at.
Yeah.
You know, the kids that are beating on the tables, talking about what's next, and the aunties and moms that work day shift. God bless their souls.
And it's gotten so acceptable here.
It's been acceptable in period. It's the Chitlin Circus, it's the juke joint. It's the reason white people came to Harlem to see jazz music. It's the reason they came down south to see the juke joint. Strip clubs are essentially the black social club. You know what I mean? And our strip clubs aren't really sex-based totally like in other places. It really is a social atmosphere. So they need it because that's where the music comes from. Forbes magazine says the #1 cultural export of America is hip-hop and R&B music. The center of the hip-hop and R&B music world is Atlanta. Therefore, the Blue Flame and Magic City deserve much of the credit of that music.
There it is. And the article's in today's AJC.
And they're black businesses, so it's Black Friday. We should be supporting them.
Yes.
Go spend a check.
Go spend the check. Jade,
Yes.
your turn.
My turn. What?
Yeah, Killer Mike is with us.
I know. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so excited because I've been watching.
How you doing?
I've been watching Trigger Warning. I think it's so necessary for our people to watch. It's what was the inspiration behind this? Like, why did you decide to make this show?
I've been asking a lot of questions about why don't we try certain things in my community since I was a child.
Right.
You know, you're the child, you have to tell you to shut up. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So for about 10 years, a friend, Daniel Weidenfeld, and I have been kind of tossing around the concepts of, in particular, say, Cripicola.
Right.
White gang privilege exists in America. Like, white gangsters are celebrated. We have Godfather's Pizza, Scarface, you know what I mean? Shouts out to Escobar, you know what I mean? My man, 2 Chainz. Like, we celebrate things that are outside of our culture for the same things we condemn one another for. So my thing was, you know, if I can name a bar Al Capone's, then we ought to have a Bumpy Johnson Steakhouse. You know? Yeah, so I took 4 brothers, Noonie, Yayo, Murdo, and AC from here, and we helped those brothers dive into the craft soda business, and out of that came Cripicola and Blood Pop, where you have two organizations that are rivals that are taking that rivalry now, and instead of killing one another in the streets, using it as an economic incentive to outdo one another and bring money to everybody's hood.
Yeah,
that's all right.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
Yeah, you say a lot of controversial things or things that make.
I say a lot of smart things that stupid people get offended by.
Well, that's
what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are afraid to go ahead and speak their mind or even think outside of the box.
Yeah.
What makes you confident in what you say?
Because I can go in the woods and kill my own food and eat it. My sister grows her own food, and if you don't like me tomorrow, I'm still going to live below my means and be okay.
Yeah. When
you're free, you're free. And everything that comes with freedom comes with freedom. And that comes with the dislike of people who are comfortable in their slavery.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I still know how to hunt and track a deer. I still know how to fish, and I still know how to grow a tomato. So as long as I can do those things, I'm okay.
How can black folk get out of their box of thinking?
Right.
You could first of all buy a styrofoam cup, some dirt, and learn how to grow a tomato.
Okay.
You know, and then you can start to hunt and fish and do some things for yourself. Like Greg Street, if you follow him, you see he fishes. Greg ain't really worried about y'all thinking him. Greg know he gonna eat bass. He gonna eat some lake fish. There's an independence and a freedom that comes with sim. I asked Dick Gregory once about my wife and I. You and your wife been together so long, man. What do you suggest we do? He said, just hold hands and go look at a tree. You know what I mean? I thought that was the craziest, slickest curve ever until one day me and my wife were going back and forth. And we ended up just walking on our back porch doing just that. You know, get outside of what you're being programmed by, which is TV, radio, the expectations of other people.
Yeah.
Get outside with the people you love. Do something to free yourself, to liberate yourself from the grid, and you'll start to feel more free. You'll start to operate. You're already free, but you don't act like it.
Yeah.
Or don't know it.
No, you know you're free. You don't act like it. You know what I mean? You know you're free. You know, that inkling that tells you to do something and you convince yourself, don't do it because my job or my church going to think of me this way.
Right.
Well, if I get caught in the blue flame, what would pastor think? Why is pastor there? You
Yeah,
know
I was
what
going to say, why is he's over there in
But
the
he's
corner.
saving souls, laying hands on people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, if you operate like you free already, the world opens up to you more.
Yeah,
You know, one
absolutely.
of the things we got to talk about is, of course, what has hit social media so hard.
What?
Is your interview yesterday?
My
with,
defense of public school?
yes, your defense of public school.
Yeah.
And you know, I thought it was. As I'm watching it, I agreed with some of the things you said, and some of the things I disagreed with,
What did you
and
disagree with?
several things. But
Then
we're
name
going to
them.
get into
Okay.
one of the things is I think that sometimes your generalization of what you're doing is really based on a case by case basis. Because, you know, you're defending public schools, which I defend public schools, but there's a lot of bad public schools.
Okay.
And how do you defend a public school that's not working?
Well, I didn't defend the public school that wasn't working. I defended the public school system that had worked for me. And that was the public school system, named the Atlanta public school system, that worked for me. Not only because I learned things there as a scholar, it gave me a confidence. What the conversation was about, African-American children being essentially minority to majority program because their parents can afford to send them to private schools in which, from a character basis, their character gets so beat up, you might put out a competent child in terms of grading and test taking, but you're not putting out a confident child. There's a theory that I have that potentially, like other cultures, we should keep our children insulated totally within our culture until they're 13 years old. Your children, in my opinion, based on my experience in the Atlanta public school system, going to schools named for Frederick Douglass, named for Benjamin E. Mays, named for Booker T. Washington, instilled a sense of confidence and pride in me. The fact that all my instructors were basically black. The fact that their life's purpose and mission was to make sure that we matriculated to the next level in post-secondary education. All those things put out a confident Michael Render. So by the time I got out to migrate to meet different people of different races, they met an equal. They didn't meet somebody who wanted to be them. They didn't meet somebody who was envious of them. They didn't meet somebody who thought that their water was colder. They met a confident, competent man who was capable of learning anything he wanted to and was not like hindering, didn't have the hindrance of racism and bigotry beat him up. And all I was suggesting to someone who has if you're not from Atlanta or you're not a black Southerner who's been a landowner of families taking care of themselves, I had to realize yesterday I had to sound like I'm talking from Mars to people. People don't understand what it's like to go to a school system named for 70% African American, liberators and educators. They don't know what it's like to grow up in Wakanda for real. It's a movie for them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've never listened to a white person on the morning show. I don't understand what that is.
Right.
I've never had to my father told me. My father was born in apartheid, essentially doing Jim Crow.
Right.
My father said his father was such a respected man, he never walked in the back of a door. So you're just talking to a free Negro. I don't understand the lack of confidence we have in one another that we can't find a black private school. I'm forgetting the name of it, but I went to one right out in Lithonia. Jerry Clark took me there. All black private school, all these kids, 100% entry into college. You know what I mean? And I know about the Ron Clark Academy. That's a great academy, but I have a vested interest in making sure this other academy
Or like Best
gets
Academy.
known too. Yeah, I have a vested
Coretta Scott King.
I named both of those on national radio yesterday. Atlanta, you have to make sure your spirit becomes infectious through every black community in this nation, because we are at peril outside this city.
But what do you say to a parent who is, like you talked about yesterday, when you talked about, we'll hold that question in a second, but
Okay.
when you talked about the average American,
a working class
class
is who I
American,
was talking about.
what do you say to those parents who are stuck in that situation of that school that is failing?
What do I say to that parent?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you just got to beef up and become more involved in your school.
Right.
You got to make some PTA meetings. You have to make some parent conferences. If it's about your child failing, see, the school system can be saved. The school system, we can vote in new school board members. We can make sure that the mayor is cooperating with them. We can do those. But on an individual basis, it's time for us to talk to our children in a way we have not.
Yeah.
All right.
My grandparents told us, you're going to do something. You're going to the Army, you getting a job, or you going to college.
That's the same
You're going to
question.
do something, right?
Yeah.
You're not just going to sit around and wait. Our children, my 16-year-old just told me, I don't want to go to college. I want to go to trade school. I want to get into trades as quickly as possible because I'd like to get involved in real estate. With you're going to have those kind of conversations, and we're going to have to understand, like the economist Walter E. Williams says, what's a black man? Walter E. Williams says, we have to understand that the learning curve may be a little longer. We may have to let our children get 22, 21 before they have the initiative to do some things that we had the initiative to do at 17, 18. But we have to make sure in the meantime they don't get nobody pregnant.
How about that?
Yes.
We were addressing a very, very popular and viral conversation.
Yes.
Where Killer Mike was on national radio defending the public school system. You had this,
And teachers.
yeah, you had this crazy argument about the negativity of the private school, though. What do you say to those parents?
I don't have anything about negativity of private schools. I'm saying that you can't, with the same mouth, say I'm sending my children to better and for better education and double back around and complain about racism and bigotry, because you're sending your children into an environment where they are the minority, and because they become a minority, you then say they're getting used and abused. But if you drive your child in a Ferrari, it doesn't matter if you call me out of my name. My dad's in a 488. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't matter. Like, it matters. Like Angela Lee talked about yesterday, being shipped a minority to a majority school and just being treated badly and having to tell her parents, I can't do it. Frederick Douglass said it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. Yeah, and we got to take that seriously, because for every school that's an option that seems better because different people are there, there's a Wilson Academy.
Well, what about not necessarily better people, but what about better opportunity?
What is better opportunity?
Better opportunity is number one, the climate of the education. The climate of some schools.
What does that look like? Because the number one college graduates in the United States are black women. Most black women have attended public school. Spelman graduates as many black women in the tech field as Georgia Tech. So now you're telling me that the pool that produces the most graduated amount of people of college of any other thing, public school educates you, public school teachers who more likely look like you in the South educate you. Now all of a sudden there's better opportunity. Yeah. Because my dad got a raise, we moved up to North Atlanta.
No. Not
That's
necessarily.
what happens. That's what better opportunity don't happen when you working at the Firestone and you live in Adamsville. It happens when you luck up for whatever reason, you move to Alpharetta and Sandy Springs, and you find better.
Are you saying that those schools potentially can't be better?
What I'm saying is you are good enough black people that you don't have to keep looking outside your water fountain for cold water. It's very plain in what I'm saying. Very explicit in what I'm saying. You are good enough. Better don't equal different butter. The butter in your refrigerator is good enough to butter your bread.
Right.
You're the most educated people, black women here. Trust yourself to teach your children.
Yeah.
If you don't like public schools, pull your children out. If you say, well, I can't afford it, then move in a house that costs less. Make a sacrifice. Yeah. My grandparents could have lived on Cascade. They could have got a bigger house and retired and got a mobile home they chose to sacrifice to raise my sisters and I. And the reward for that was a college graduate, a trade school graduate, and the kid that did drop out of college ended up becoming an entrepreneur.
So
sits here before you.
We'll explain that real quick. So you said they sacrificed. What do you mean by that? They moved somewhere else?
No, they chose not to move.
Okay, gotcha.
They stayed in the community, they invested in the community, and they participated in the community so that the fruits that they bear from their investment were 3 worthy fruits in me and my 2 sisters.
Okay.
And that's what you're going to have to do to make it work. You're going to have to do the same thing your grandparents did. That's do for self or not. But when your kids come home crying, or they come home shameful about their curves in their body, or they don't like their hair or somebody told them their skin look like poo, don't come around here whining. Because you knew what you were sending your children into. You sent them into that environment. And again, public school is already educating most black girls in this country. And black girls graduate college at a higher rate than anybody else.
Say that.
So how am I going to all of a sudden say, now St. Pius and St. Michael and all this is better when the products of us is already dominating?
But didn't you say you're sending your daughter to Paideia?
I'm sending my daughter to Paideia for a specific reason.
Okay.
Because my daughter's artistically minded. So her interests lay more outside of the classroom, artistic things. And I have not said conclusively I'm sending her. I said we're going to look at Paideia. That's where I want to go.
But isn't that contradicting?
But her mother has found a black art school in South Atlanta she may be going to.
Okay.
And it's not a contradiction because I said until you're 13.
Right.
See, listen to me when I'm talking to you. Listen to what I'm really saying.
Okay.
Not to what you want to hear or what sounds exciting. I said, like other cultures, we should insulate our children until 13.
So they're old enough to have enough self-worth to go into the community and defend themselves and
now
be black.
We're talking.
Yeah, I feel you, brother.
Because when you're 13 in many cultures, you're becoming an adult.
Yeah.
That's when you cross the threshold and you can assert yourself.
Absolutely.
My daughter's an 11. My daughter will be going to high school in 2 years. So she'll be 13.
Okay.
And you already said
Now,
she's still confident enough in her blackness to handle
and
whatever
to be
they
very
throw at
honest
her.
with you, I just want her to be around some white folks because really she a little too much like a dad.
To even it out a little bit, right?
Like Michael right now, boy, she on one.
Whenever we
feel
do
you.
this question, there are so many parents that are frustrated that they want to do everything you're saying, but it's tough in them schools.
Let me ask y'all.
I'm just asking for those parents.
How many people you know kids went to parent school? I mean, how many parents do you know who children went to private school, their children scholarship in?
In the private school?
No, in the college.
Oh, who got a scholarship into college who were at a private unit?
Not many
I
of
don't
mine.
know.
Most of my buddies who paid
$30,000.
Athletes.
And private schools don't do a great job of educating
track
them.
athletes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a great.
Mike, that's not fair to say.
Private schools do a great job.
My kids go to private school. They do a great job.
Black women athletes graduate college at a higher rate than black male athletes. All the money is made by universities from boys dunking and running balls. Why can't you graduate my son since you're doing a great job of educating him?
Well, you wait a minute, but most of the black athletes are coming out of public school, though, Mike.
No, I'm not saying they don't.
Okay.
What I'm saying is if you're educated, and the best black athletes get shipped to prep school. Don't play with me. Yeah, you play with these jokers and these suckers.
No, come on, Mike.
The best basketball players do not graduate from. They get soaked up. They get taken to private schools.
They get sucked into schools in
They get introduced to white girls. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, yeah. Oh man, that's the kryptonite.
Mike,
they come back home. They don't even want nobody to look like their mama,
bro.
We don't even want nobody to look like our mama no more, or our auntie, or the girl we used to like.
Mike,
I'm just telling people.
You cannot tell me that any of these private schools are graduating more football players than Stevenson.
That's not what I'm saying.
You just said they don't graduate from college. So who are you blaming?
Who I'm blaming about not graduating from college is a culture that puts sports above education.
Right.
Our girls understand the need for education because they understand the WNBA don't pay like the NBA.
Right.
We need to make sure our boys are on par with our girls and they understand the importance of education. We need to. Gaddafi said, I'm sending you, what did he say? I'm sending you to university and you won't find liberation between the Europeans' legs. Right, so when we send our boys out, we're not even sending our boys out to make sure that they marry and that they bring something back to the community that looks like them. We send our boys out, we're sending them out essentially to be chattel to run. We're not expressing them the importance of education, and that's fine. But I refuse to, in an environment where most women who graduate are black women, right, graduate at a higher rate than anyone else from college, I refuse to then trash the school system that needs help, that can be improved, that produces them. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't go against the Atlanta public school system to that extent. I can't go against a public school system that produces such graduates as black women. I can't. Now, I'm not saying it can't be improved, and it can be improved with help from the public.
Yeah.
Even if your child doesn't go to that school, you can contribute to that school. You can contribute by being a mentor. You can be an attendee. You can do things to help that school. I'm calling upon the whole West Side and all of Atlanta to help a Frederick Douglass High School. You know, some of the best talent got soaked out when they put the charter schools there. We need to make sure that the institutions that produced our mayor can produce the next mayor. And if we don't do that, we're not tilling the soil. We're dropping the ball where our grandparents did.
So how do we do that? How do we do that?
Well, first of all, it goes back to this thing called confidence. Your children need to see you being confident in being black.
Right.
Starts at home.
Right. They need to see you confident in being black.
Yeah.
They need to see you have a confidence about you that they want to emulate, because that confidence will propel them in a classroom. They need to look across that desk and see other people who look like them as leaders and as teachers and as instructors and as principals, like the Wilson Academy. Wilson Academy is a very small school doing 100% graduation and college rates.
Amazing.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we don't know about that school, but I bet you by the end of the year we do, because I'm going to yell their name everywhere I can.
Yeah.
But what we can do more than anything is be active and participate. What I want people to do on your Black Fridays, when you go find a black restaurant to eat with your children, then let's make sure when we go home we put our phones up and we just hang. Let's make sure we read a black book together.
Yeah.
You know, let's make sure that we, when we go to New York, we don't just go to Times Square. I was there yesterday. We go to the Arthur Schomburg Museum. And if you're in Atlanta, get on the bus and go to the Apex Museum.
It's the morning culture. Frank Ski, Jade Novah JR, and our special guest, Killer Mike, is in the studio. So, Mike, of course, we can't let you leave without talking about this Democratic Party and all these people jumping in.
Man,
Cory Booker just announced. Cory Booker just announced. What you think?
I think I got a great TV show out, and you should check it out.
No comments on Bernie Sanders getting back in?
I want OG to do it. He actually, I talked to him yesterday. He called me.
Okay.
Yeah, I said, if you need me to come off the bench, OG, let me know. I'm with you. But
what do you think about the fact that some people say he can do it, but because he's running as independent, it kind of messes it up for all of us?
Wouldn't you theoretically say the same thing about Cory and Kamala then? Because they're kind of cutting each other's.
But with the Democratic Party, it'll narrow down to one person.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, but if we want truly radical and progressive change, we're going to have to be open to more than a two-party system. A two-party system keeps you in prison. Noam Chomsky talks about that. You guys Google him, look him up. He's a 80-something-year-old anarchist, one of the best political and social minds I've ever seen. But Chomsky says that you were given essentially two things to argue, right? But within those two things, they allow for very lively debate in between, but there are no places for progressive or radical voices. You just sound like you're from Neptune. So I think that, we do need more. We need the Green Party running. We need independents running. We need more choices than the two who are in cahoots together.
All right, let's talk about this TV show, man.
Trigger warning.
Yes.
Trigger warning.
So good.
Why did you call it trigger warning?
Because white people suggested it sounded good.
You were sitting in the room and they said, hey.
That was our working title. I didn't know what trigger warning meant. I'd be learning new stuff, cancel culture, all kind of stuff like that. But I was like, it sound hard.
It do.
You know what I mean? So, and I was like, we used it as a working title, and then all of a sudden, we got to the end and we didn't have a better title, so it's trigger warning.
Trigger warning.
It's going to trigger you. You're going to watch this show maybe expecting or having some expectations, and some of your perceptions are going to be challenged, and hopefully what comes out of it is growth and conversation and the act of doing. So today is Friday. One of the challenges from the first episode of Living Black, which I found it nearly impossible to do even in Atlanta, is finding a black business to support every Friday, and you don't have to be black to do that. That's for the black community and the greater community. So find a black business to support today, including mine, Swag Shop, 365 Edgewood Avenue. You guys are welcome to come there. There are tons of black businesses here. Black service-related businesses, be they restaurant, consumer businesses like Tags, which Candy owns, and things of that nature. So for me, I think that we should start doing it every Friday. We should encourage our non-black friends to do it, because the stronger our own economy is, the stronger the bigger community is. And that's directly out of a TV show called Trigger Warning, hosted by a rapper from here.
Well, one of the episodes, you start your own church, and I'm really curious to ask you about that. You had I listened to some of the podcasts that you did. Shameless plug. Come on, show us now. So,
and the church is sleepy.
The church of sleeping.
Yeah. White Jesus is bad for black people.
And I was going to ask you that. Look, you had your podcast with Joe Rogan. I listened to some of it.
Joe.
And one of the quotes you said, we're scared to turn off the lights and at some point see something divine within ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because once you do that, it requires you to act differently.
Absolutely.
And then you also went on to say, and that people like to be told what to do.
They do.
It's easier to see the evil on the outside.
Absolutely.
So was that your motivation to start your own religion?
My motivation was white Jesus has failed the black community.
Oh, explain, brother.
Horribly.
Explain, please.
If your child looks at an image that doesn't look like its mother, if your child can look at an image that doesn't in any way resemble its black, beautiful mother, black people, you are worshiping the wrong image.
Okay.
The first human being on earth was not a man. You didn't come from a man's rib. The first human being was a black woman. We all came from her womb. She's capable of producing any race, color, creed from herself. She should be looked at as something divine. She is divine. She ain't just black girl magic. She is absolutely divinity. And if we do not recognize that as a community, and we keep praying to this white boy with long hair and a beach body, then we're going to keep being stuck where we are, because you're not seeing or putting divinity in your children because they don't see themselves in that.
Well, they say that Jesus wasn't black.
They say
Jesus wasn't white.
They also say Jesus wasn't.
Yeah, Jesus wasn't white.
They say Jesus wasn't. There's a school of thought that says Jesus is a character that was inserted. And the character in the pages is amazing. Let me say that the virtue of love overcoming all, the willingness to go against, rally against government and church and money in the temple is a noble. As a character, as an illustrated novel, you won't find a better book than the Bible.
Right.
But as a lead character, if he's cast as a white guy, can't go watch the movie.
Well, that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of black people been programmed to think that way.
Absolutely.
How does that change? How do folks open up their minds?
It takes you looking in the mirror saying God lives in here and not in the picture in my grandma's house.
So do you feel that Christianity kind of plays into the misogyny of what you're speaking about? Like,
I'm
that
not talking
diminishes?
about misogyny. What I'm talking about right now is Western patriarchal rule, because misogyny is saying I hate women.
Okay.
That's not, but I do think the church hates women.
I mean, as far as the divinity of women, like us having the power within ourselves, and then turning to white Jesus.
I definitely think it plays in that. So I stand correct. So I definitely think there is something that's absolutely divine about you as a black woman, about us as black people.
Yes.
And if we don't start to recognize and acknowledge that, we're going to keep being enslaved by the bondages of white Jesus. Christianity teaches us from a Western way. Like, you got to think about it. I know black churches that go to Israel.
Right.
But the oldest Bible is in Ethiopia. Mark set up the church in Ethiopia.
Okay.
So why don't we go to Ethiopia? You're scared you're going to see somebody look like you?
Right.
Because it requires you to act different when you know God's moved through you. And when you know God lives in you. Go listen to some old Reverend Ike. Y'all go to YouTube. All that stuff that Oprah be showing y'all charge $30 for the books, like the 4 agreements and all that old trash. Oh, man, don't worry. Reverend Ike gave y'all that game for free.
Reverend Ike.
Reverend Ike. Go check him out on YouTube and see
I will. I'm going to watch that today.
Go ahead, JR.
No, I just think black people, unfortunately, we've been programmed, we've been beat down, and we've been programmed to think and live in fear and live in our bodies.
Yeah, that's why you see your kids in white private school.
But no, he turned it.
Same reason you worship white.
But you also say that people need control. They need to feel like they. So is that like that's what I was asking about the religion that you created? Is it forming an alternative for people?
The one that I created puts you closer to divinity when you sleep. Because my thing is that you're the most close to God when you're unconscious of this what's going on.
Right.
So those first thoughts when you wake up out of your sleep, those first pure and magical thoughts, start to write those things down. Get a sleep book. Sleep with a glass of water and a candle next to your bed. So you reflect on your ancestors and you think about it for clarity. Pray for clarity. Pray for God to talk to you from the inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And watch how your life change.
No, I'm all
So
about
are you
that,
saying
brother.
that
You might hit the number tomorrow.
Hey,
so Mike, obviously we are in Atlanta, which is the Bible Belt for black people.
Yeah.
You're saying a lot.
I am.
You're going against the whole word of faith and what faith is.
No, I'm not.
No.
I'm going against the patriarchal figure of a white man being the lawyer between you and your God. What I'm doing is saying that the image of that white man on the wall does not determine your level of faith. What brought you here were the prayers and strength and energy of your ancestors, of your grandparents, of your great-grandparents. The faith that if they toiled and if they worked and if they prayed that they could push through. But they didn't know that the image they were being given was going to program you to think that the person you were looking at was better. They were given that image, but you can refuse it. You can say, I can sit here in this church, I can love myself, I can know the Creator moves through me, but I don't have to get all quirky and dewy-eyed and scared because the preacher's telling me that somehow God lives outside of me.
So what if you fall under the thought that Jesus is black?
Then good.
So do you believe in Jesus or you don't?
I believe in black people.
But I'm asking you a question. Do you
I just
believe
answered your question. I believe in black people.
Yeah, but that's not answering if you believe Jesus is real or not.
Well, it doesn't matter if I believe Jesus is real. I'm not a Christian. It don't matter what I think of Jesus, Moses, or Muhammad, because I don't follow any of the big three.
Yeah.
But what I know is real is black people, and I believe in us. I believe us in Nigeria. I believe in us in Brazil. I believe us in the Caribbean, up and down the Georgia coastal islands. I believe in us. And I know that whatever created us before a book was written, before anything was written on a wall to try to describe them, we were already in tune with it.
Okay,
We're already in tune.
Last question, when are you running?
Well, I'm about to run out of here and go to bed.
No, when are you running for public office?
I'm not.
Come on, Mike. Why not?
I like money. Ain't no sense in, politicians essentially are paid to get up more money for the party. And I asked my accountant, I said, how much money I need to not work the rest of my life? He said, well, the way you like to live, probably about 21 million. So I got a few million to go, and I'll think about it.
Killer Mike, everybody.
Right on.
It's
It's
the
a pleasure
Morning
having
Culture.
you. Thank
People
you so
Station
much.
V103.